Hey, what's up? It's Randy and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the powering options for the Sound Devices MixPre6 as well as the MixPre3. I wanted to do a bit of a practical overview where we can talk about like how long you can record with each option and the pros and the cons of different setups so you guys can see which one is right for you. If this video is helpful, make sure to go ahead and give it a like. Let's see if we can get to like 50 likes on this video. That would be sick. All right, so if we take a look at the powering options provided by Sound Devices, you can see that there's kind of a lot to get through, but I've broken this down into 4 main categories of powering options. So let's jump into the first option here. First, let's start off with the wall plug. This is the MX-PSU AC wall adapter that comes with the MixPre units. It has a 120 volt plug on one side, and on the other side it has a USB Type-C cable. Now for the pros, well, of course it will run indefinitely, so you won't have any lapses in power, which is awesome. There's no swapping batteries. There's continuous access to the SD card on the back, which isn't the case in some of the other powering options that we'll explore later. This makes it ideal for hot swapping SD cards or midday backups without having to lose power or your sync. It also comes with a variety of international adapters, so you're all set for traveling. Now let's talk about the cons. The USB connector does have some wiggle to it, as you can see here. It has some play and it doesn't really inspire too much confidence. And then the cable just kind of dangles and puts some strain on the USB-C port. Now I found a little workaround by looping the cable through this little loop at the front here, which will relieve some of the strain. Another con is that you're limited to the 5-foot cable. Of course, you can use an extension if you need to. And the last thing, which really isn't a con, is just something to note, is that it doesn't recharge your batteries if you're using rechargeables. It's just power for the unit itself. The second option is powering this device as a USB interface. Now you'll need to use the USB Type-C port. The USB-A port here is only for USB backups or USB keyboards and a few other accessories. Now, it does come with this really nice 5-foot braided USB-C to C cable. Now, if your computer doesn't have USB-C, you can actually get an MX USB-Y cable from Sound Devices to go from 2 USB Type-A ports to a USB Type-C. Of course, the runtime for this is also indefinite. Let's go over the pros. So it's great for desk setups, of course, when you're within 5 feet of your device, great for musicians, producers, and that sort of thing. And it's also mobile when you're using it with a laptop because it is bus powered. The cons, you're limited to the length of your USB Type-C, in this case about 5 feet, which for most desk setups won't really be a problem. All right, let's spin this guy around and chat about the powering options from the back. Okay, option number 1 on the back here is using the default AA battery sled that comes with the MixPre. Rechargeables or lithium AA's are recommended. They say on the website, alkaline batteries will provide the shortest runtimes of all of the options. Speaking of runtimes, in all of these battery tests, I was recording all 6 channels, and channel 1 was using phantom power to simulate sort of like a boom and wireless setup. And with a really good set of rechargeable batteries, I was able to record using this setup for 2 hours and 5 minutes. So let's go over the pros. The biggest pro that I can think of for this setup is that it's super convenient because AA batteries are available just about everywhere, so at least you always have a backup. The cons, you have the absolute shortest run times of all the other options, and there's no access to the SD card on the back. Option 2 is upgrading to one of the L-mount battery sleds. This here is the MX L-mount, which holds 2 NP-style batteries. You can also get the MX LM1, which holds one directly off the back, whereas this one kind of holds them sideways. And these are both sold directly by Sound Devices. All right, let's talk about the pros. So first thing, much longer record times. On these slim NP batteries here, I can get up to about 3.5 hours per battery. And with the 2 of them in there, I was getting around 7 hours and 45 minutes of record time. Now with 2 larger NP batteries, like the big chunky ones that stick out a bit, you can likely record a full day on a single charge. And for the cons, well, the biggest one I can think of is that this plastic unit is extremely overpriced. These are around $80 US. They should be like $12 or $15. Sound Devices, I have no idea why you charge this much. Kind of waiting for somebody on Etsy to knock these off and make some 3D printed ones. It also feels relatively fragile. It doesn't inspire too much confidence. I think if I were to drop this, there's a good chance that it might crack. And finally, there's no access to the SD card. And just something to note, if you're using the slim style NP batteries, it'll take up about the same width as you can see here as the MixPre itself. So it's not too chunky. If you're using the big chunky ones, you'll definitely need a little bit more space. And you can also check out Hawkwood's knockoff. They have the SD2 adapter, and it has a similar function to the single NP battery sled. Okay, option number 3 is purchasing a MX Hirose sled. This gives you the 4-pin Hirose port for accepting film-grade V-mount batteries. The pros here, generally speaking, these film batteries will give you at least 10 to 12 hours of record times. You can also use a D-tap and distribution unit that will let you power the sound devices, as well as everything else in your bag that requires power. And the cons, they are by far the heaviest batteries. Relatively speaking, they're much more expensive, typically around $80 for a cheap one, up to around $400 depending. Again, no access to the SD card on the back. And much like the last option, these are extremely overpriced. But I will say there are a couple knockoffs, like the one from Cable Techniques or from Hawkwoods. And you can configure these till you're blue in the face. Like there are some other options here from Hawkwoods. They have the LR06, which is a Hirose to dummy, and they have the LR08 D-tap to dummy. So of course you can configure these and find any options that you'll need for your bag. And the last option that we'll cover is using USB power banks and plugging into the USB Type-C on the side. So these are ideal if you need to be mobile, but you don't have any of the other options. So maybe it's a rare case that you need to be mobile and you just need something that will get the job done. Now, I was actually able to get 9 hours and 15 minutes of record time, which is actually quite awesome, but they do have some drawbacks to consider. The pros, power banks are generally quite inexpensive. You can find them just about anywhere. Sound Devices recommends this one here by Anker. You have so much flexibility to charge different devices in your bag, so that can be really handy. Now, because you're using the USB Type-C on the side, it has continuous access to SD cards, so of course you can hot swap or back up your cards midday. Okay, but what are the cons of using a device like this? Well, one is that you're using the USB Type-C port, which is, again, kind of wobbly. I wouldn't want to put this like in a sound bag for a day or something like that, just because if it does come unplugged, you're kind of out of luck. And speaking of powering down cold turkey, when I was using the USB power bank and the power died on it at the end of the test, the whole device just shut off. There was no warning, there was no saving the SD card or anything like that. Whereas when I was using the NP battery sleds, they actually gave me alerts. They said, you know, your device is running low on power, we're gonna save what's on your file. So if your power just dies like that, it's a really great way to lose all of your audio and possibly even to corrupt your card. So definitely something to consider. And the last and final con of using a USB power bank is that you may have limited device functionality depending on the output strength of your power bank. So let's break that down. To fully power the MixPre3 or 6, you need a USB Type-C power source that's able to output 7.5 watts. But you also need a USB Type-A to C cable that's capable of carrying that much load. I'll explain more on that in just a second. If you don't meet these criteria, the MixPre will record in what they call low power mode, which is basically a maximum of 2 phantom power channels, no HDMI, and no USB Type-A. So you can still use all the channels, but only a maximum of 2 of them can be phantom powered. And then what I was mentioning about the cables, you also want to make sure to try a few different USB-A to C cables because, as you can see, this one's providing enough power to be fully functional. I'm getting the green battery, which means everything's hunky-dory. But another cable that I was using in my testing was giving me the orange icon, which means that it's operating in low power mode. So simply swapping out the cable may be enough to get enough juice to your device so that you can operate in the fully functional mode. All right, sick. There are like a million different powering options for this device. Now, if I've missed any, throw them down in the comments below and I'll definitely respond. Also, if this video is helpful for you, make sure to like and share it with a friend. That would be really cool. Very much appreciate that. And also, if you guys want to see my Sound Devices MixPre6 video where I go over all the I/O, the menus, the connectivity, all that good stuff, check out this video right here. This has everything that I can think to share with you about the Sound Devices MixPre6 2nd edition. That's it for today. We'll see you guys next week.